this is Belinda. This month I'm really excited to be guest designer for Cut to You, and today I'm sharing the first of my 2 projects that I have completed for this guest designer spot. I'm going to be using this really sweet little book stack cut file here, which I've just cut out using some grey patterned paper. And I've got just a few photos of some of the book stacks that I've got around my house to tell that story. And then I'm going to start by backing the cut file. I've got a text-based little 6x8 paper, and then I've just pulled some papers from this Maggie Holmes Willow Lane 6x8 paper pad. So I'm going to go ahead and pop you on fast forward while I back this cut file and then see where the layout takes me. Okay, I'm going to start off with backing my cut file, and I have only left a little bit of this in because I'm sure everybody's seen videos of having cut files backed. But I've just left this bit in here because I am using this text-based 6x6 paper to back the pages section of each of the books. And I'm going to make sure that the direction of the text matches the orientation of the book. So I'm just cutting out small pieces from the paper, which is going to fit into each little section of the book. And I'm going to run a little bit of glue around it, stick it down, and then I will go back later and trim off the excess. So you can see I've been really careful about the direction of the text on that piece there. And then I'm going to go and cut another piece from that patterned paper, which is going to go on the next book. And you'll see that again, I'm just really careful about the direction of that text. So I'm not going to show you, as I said, I'm not going to show you the full process. You will see the completed cut file a little bit later on in the video, but I just wanted to talk through that part of the process for anyone who might have been interested in it. And in the interest of full disclosure, I am going to admit that this video has been heavily edited. This was one of those pages that was just hard work. My original ideas that I had probably 30 or 40 minutes of footage for didn't work out, so I scrapped that, went back, started again, and then the whole way through the process I was just plagued with little things going wrong. Adhesive sticking to photos, not liking the way that things were coming together, so it has been heavily edited. If it jumps around a bit, that's why, and I do apologize for that. So I'm using some plain white cardstock as the base, and I've just trimmed a little bit of that white cardstock down, and I'm going to use this pink chevron patterned paper as the background for that. And there's that completed cut file backed really nicely. So I am going to cut the center out of this pink chevron paper. It's a really pretty paper, and it's definitely my kind of aesthetic, so I didn't want to waste it. And you will see a little bit later on that I do use some of this to back the photo that I end up using. So cutting the center out of that, and then what you'll see me do is take my little tape runner, and I'm just going to add a very small amount of adhesive to that frame. And the reason I'm only adding a little bit of adhesive is because I do take it to my sewing machine and just run some plain white stitching around the edges, because I do love a little bit of stitching on my layouts. Okay, so there we go, that's all stitched. Here's my photo. So you would have seen in my intro that I had 4 photos that I was intending on using, but I just couldn't get the 4 photos to work with the cut file. The cut file takes up a lot of real estate on the page, and so having 4 photos, it was just too much. So what I've done is I've gone and reprinted the photo, which is a stack of books sitting by my bed, and I've printed it slightly larger, and I'm just going to use this one single photo for the layout. So I've matted it there on some white cardstock, which I do with, I'd say probably about 95% of the photos that I use on layouts, particularly on something like this where the photo's a little bit darker. I find having that white border just makes it pop a little bit more. And then I've got that pink chevron paper, realizing that that trimmer's not going to work. So grabbing out my larger trimmer And I'm just going to add quite a thin little border there. And you'll see now that I've also added just a white tissue paper to the back of that matted photo just to soften it up a little bit and to add a little bit more texture. It's my favorite word. My favorite thing on layouts is texture. With that in mind, I've grabbed a couple of doilies from my stash and I'm going to stick those down to the background. I'm just adding a little bit of this tape runner adhesive and I'm putting it in spots that I know will be covered up by the cut file and by the photo because you can see it through those really thin doilies. So to adhere the cut file to my page, I'm going to use some liquid adhesive, just running that across the back, and then I'm going to stick it down before moving on to my photo and embellishments. So here I'm just showing you what I ended up doing for my title. I couldn't find any thickers that I really liked for a part of my title, so I decided to make some myself. I've grabbed out an alphabet die that I have, and I die cut I think four of each letter, and then I'm just using this glue to stick them down and stack them on top of each other. This is a tacky glue, but I can still move the letters around when I stick it down. So doing this meant that I could choose a colour, a paper that tied in with my page, because I just couldn't find anything that I was happy with. And stacking them up together just gives them that little bit of dimension, so they're almost like a thicker. They're dimensional, but not quite. It's a really cool technique. If you haven't tried it, I definitely recommend it. You can do it with all kinds of die cuts, not just letters, not just alphabets. So you'll see I've added some of my favorite white trim to the bottom of that photo. I've got a whole stack of these kind of trims that I picked up and I love them. They're so pretty. And I've got some foam on the back of that photo just to make it pop off the layout. For my journaling, I did something that I don't think I've done before. I actually printed my journaling onto vellum. I've definitely done that before. But then I cut the vellum down into strips. And if you've worked with vellum, you'll know that it can be tricky to adhere it down because most wet glues, tape runners, double-sided tapes, they do show through the vellum. But I've run it through my Xyron sticker maker and it's perfect. You can't see any of the adhesive. It sticks down really nice and firmly and you get that really nice translucent effect that you get from vellum. So again, if you've got a Xyron and you're working with vellum, I definitely recommend giving that a go for sticking it down on your page because it looks great. You can't see any of the adhesive. So I've been through my chipboard sticker sheets and picked out a few things that I think might go well with this page. I'm going to keep it fairly simple with my embellishing and just create a couple of small clusters, or a few small clusters I should say. I'm starting off with these chipboard hearts, which have both got some gold foil detail on them. Also going to add these bows, which I've made from a die using some of the same papers that are in the backing of that cut file. I've got this Maggie Holmes sticker book, which I'm going to end up grabbing some floral stickers from for the base of my clusters. And I'm putting that chipboard tag flag thing in the top right corner there. So I do start off with some wet adhesive for these die cut bows, which are absolutely gorgeous. I don't actually think I've used these dies before and I definitely want to use them a little bit more in future. So I start off with a wet adhesive, but it doesn't really stick them down all that well. So I will go back and add some foam squares behind them to help them stick down a little bit better and also to just give them a little bit more dimension on the page. So now you can see I've got those floral stickers from the sticker book down underneath each of the clusters, and I'm also going to add one behind this pink chipboard tag up in the top right hand corner. I will grab my wet glue and add some extra adhesive to the back of each of the chipboard pieces just because they're not super sticky and I don't want them falling off and floating around once the page is in the page protector. So to finish off this layout, I'm going to grab my date stamp and add the date to that tag up in the top right. I've also got a small gold foil heart sticker from the same sticker book, and I'm going to add that to the tag as well. And finally, I will stick down the last bow, which you can see just on the left there, which has got the foam squares on the back of it ready to be put down on the layout. That is it for this very hard to put together layout. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please feel free to go ahead and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And if you did enjoy the video, I would love it for you to give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching and have a great day.